Thank you, Audrey, and welcome to the future leaders of HEDNA. April, Lisa, Gabriel, thank you for joining me today to talk about your perspective, your personal experiences, and we'll put a crystal ball out on our virtual tables and talk about what's ahead of us, right? So, welcome everyone. I want to sort of open up the microphone and get you guys to introduce yourself, talk about what you guys do. Maybe April, let's start with you. You're joining us from Atlanta, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, I am joining you guys from Atlanta. And my name is April Key. I work for Intercontinental Hotels Group. I work in product management, specifically in connectivity. So I looked after the technical aspects of our connectivity. I manage our roadmap of all the cool new things we're going to do. And I've been in distribution overall for about 14 years now. And half of that has been with IHG.
Excellent. Thank you. Lisa.
Hi, everyone. Lisa Murphy here, VP of Strategic Accounts for Shiji. I look after all things connectivity and distribution, calling in from Dallas, Texas. So enjoying the sunshine here today. Nice to see everyone.
Excellent, excellent. And Gabriel, is it cold where you are? I guess I know the answer, but why don't you introduce yourself?
Thank you, Sebastian. Yeah, it is pretty cold. So, fun fact that I'm also in Montreal, Canada, and looking forward to going to a warm place when we can travel again. Very quickly, I think I've been working with online travel for the past 15 years. So I started back in Brazil, working at CVC Travel, one of the largest tour operators in Latin America. After that, I moved to Amadeus IT Group. A few years later, I moved to France, also with Amadeus, where I was managing there the technical relationship with online travel agencies, one on the GDS side for air distribution. And then I joined Expedia Group about 8 years ago, where I had different roles, but always within the connectivity, the lodging connectivity space. And right now, I lead the connectivity account management team on what we call the core OTA side. So very, very exciting.
Well, welcome everyone, and I'm so happy to have you here. You guys are a great reflection of the HEDNA community. We have a hotel company, we have a distributor, and we have a technology provider. I do have a dog behind me who needs to get let out, so I'm going to cater to that dog for a second before she is becoming unhappy. So this was a live feed, and these things happen. So look, guys, what I want to do is I want to talk a little bit about working remote, and let's start with that. There's a lot of changes that has happened in this industry, and one of the biggest one is that we're all glued probably for as many hours as we work, and some that's more and some of that's less, to a screen. We're looking at a camera, and we're working from home, no longer in an office. April, how has that impacted your work? Working from home, working remotely?
It has definitely changed the way I work. I am the person who likes to be in the office to go and hunt people down and get questions answered and things like that. And being confined to my desk in a one room for most of the day has been a challenge. I think when I've worked from home in the past, it's 1 or 2 days a week. And so I just find some space that I could work and get through the 8 hours. But having changed and being fully at home, I had to create a space that I could actually work in and actually focus and get away from all of the distractions and things that are going on at home. And one of the things that I think has been an unintended consequence of working from home is I didn't realize just how many people I work with in the building that I don't necessarily talk to on a daily basis or have to work with in a meeting or things like that. And so I kind of miss all of those people that I casually see in the halls or in the elevators going to and fro.
All right, Lisa, how about you? How was that transition from in the office to out of the office?
Make sure I'm not on mute. Well, actually, I work from home the majority of the time unless I'm traveling. So I think the biggest change for me was the loss of the travel. I do have an office space that I have set up here at home. I think, my dogs love having me around 100% of the time. They can sometimes be a distraction. But what I really like about it, I think the most, is the flexibility that it offers. It lends itself to allowing me to cater to partners in different markets around the world. If I need to take calls at odd hours, I can do that and flex my schedule to accommodate whatever those needs might be. So I might get up earlier one day and end a little earlier. I might work later one night and start later the next day. So I enjoy it.
Gabriel, you look like you're in the basement. You set up a whole new office for yourself. Is this your permanent location?
I am in my basement. That's my official office now. But I think I am with April. I actually enjoy going to the office, putting some kind of a working clothes on. and that's something that at the beginning of the pandemic, I was not doing so much, but then I realized it was affecting my kind of a mental health. So still I do it because I kind of need to create that, hey, now it's working time. I need to get ready. So I like that, morning ritual of, getting ready for work. So I kind of miss going to the office. I believe that, a lot of collaboration happens in person. If we want to foster creativity and innovation, it's important to get together. So I definitely miss going to the office. But silver lining is that I'm saving a lot of time on commuting. I can have comfortable pants on without people noticing. So I think that these are the great benefits.
You brought up an interesting point, which had to do about collaboration. How, we're doing this via Zoom, we're doing this via SharePoints and Google Docs, et cetera. It's like, but what was sort of the biggest change for you when you think about communication, collaboration, teamwork? Maybe Gabriel, let's start with you because you just brought it up. Like, how did you have to adopt how you work in the last 12 months in order to be successful?
Sure. Yeah, that's a very good point. We had to adapt, right? So there was no way around it. For planning and strategy meetings, now we, instead of having like offsites where we could have all the team members, especially for us because we are a global team, we have people in APAC and Europe, North America, South America. So it'd be so much easier if we could, organize a offsite, get everybody in the same location. I think that's the best way to really, discuss innovation and foster creativity and also team cohesion, right? Which is super important nowadays. And that's something that is not possible today, which makes a huge challenge, right? We've seen a lot of companies, including ourselves, trying to organize this virtual offsites, but it's not the same, right? It's we don't have the same connection as we would have if we were in an office or in the same location.
So how do you do it?
Yeah, well, we have to do it virtually. We try to not schedule long meetings. We have to be mindful of that. And I think one thing that also we have to adapt is really to create methods so everybody can participate, right? We've set up our team SharePoint. It has always been there, but now it's getting more used than ever before. So we try to create those documents where everybody can collaborate and put their ideas on, etc., rather than working in silos. So I think that was something that it was also positive by those virtual setups that we're having right now.
Lisa, you've always been remote. You've never been really in an office. Much change for you on how you work, on how you communicate, on how you sort of collaborate?
I don't know that it's changed too terribly much. I have worked in offices in the past. I just don't for Shiji. I would say that things that have evolved for me would be embracing, the Zoom whiteboarding capabilities. A lot of what we do tends to lead us into conversations where diagrams speak louder than words. Picture's worth 1,000 words. So it's just easier to comprehend if you can draw it out. And I've gotten pretty savvy with Zoom whiteboarding and trying to convey my message digitally through a picture. And other than that, I think, to Gabriel and April's points about collaborating and innovating face-to-face with your colleagues is invaluable. I mean, energy and ideas feed off of each other when we get to spend time together. I definitely miss human interaction. I've started to kind of live in this virtual environment, and I'm getting used to it. But, I think now the evolution of working through Zoom and maybe Microsoft Teams and things like that, we use GIFs a lot more and maybe emojis and things to sort of get our message across and maybe lighten the mood or sort of bring the energy up into the conversation. So, and I think having the camera on is also a great way to interact with your customers, your colleagues, your partners. I think it makes a huge difference to have the camera on. I think some people are shy about it. I've embraced it, hair done or not. Today it's nice and curly, but it's not always like that. Some days it's a ponytail.
Excellent. April, do you have your camera on all the time?
No, I can confess that I don't. I'm one of those people who are a little bit shy about it, but I think I can probably echo a lot of what Gabriel said in that, we've had these tools for video conferencing, whether it's SharePoint and all of those things before. But I think this period of time has definitely helped us to use them a lot more. And I think Microsoft Teams has actually been very big for us at IHG, being a communication tool and a collaboration tool. And while I can't get up and go knock on the door and find somebody in their office or at their desk, I can ping them and see, hey, are you available? Can we chat? So I think you still have those aspects of collaboration. I think one of the things I'm missing is, I miss being in person and being able to draw things out. I'm the person who's walking around with her whiteboard markers and trying to find a whiteboard to tell the story because as much as I like to, talk to people, I'm a very visual learner. And I think, you can paint a picture a lot clearly when you have whiteboard and some markers than me saying, oh, imagine this, imagine that. So collaboration has changed definitely, in this world. And we've definitely made a good use of the tools that we have. And I think it's been amazing to see how much we can shift from being in an office setting to being at home and still getting the work done.
So it is possible.
It is possible.
Excellent. All right. Let's look back to sort of the last 12 months. Most of us were together in Los Angeles at the last HEDNA conference. If you were to sort of rewind the clock, right, and you put yourself to end of January, early February, and hindsight is 2020, what would you tell yourself to do different as you sort of go through this crisis? Is there anything that you said, crap, I wish I had, sorry for swearing, but I wish I had done this differently? Maybe April, let's start with you. Like, what would you like to have done differently?
I don't know. That's a good question. What I would have done differently, knowing what I know now at the end of the conference, probably last year. One of the things that I will say personally.
Go on a quick holiday in February,
Definitely that. But I think one of the things that has been good for me, the lesson that I've learned in this time period that I really should have had learned a little bit ago is to extend myself some grace. I think I'm constantly working and pushing myself to do a lot. And I think like anybody else, I can be hard on myself. And I think during this period of time where everything has just sort of come to a halt in our industry, I found myself kind of floundering because I didn't have all of the different things that I normally would have to do. A different set of things, different set of challenges. But I think that lesson of giving yourself some grace, giving yourself some space to step away and breathe and be able to take time out for yourself is something that I would tell myself then, and definitely something I tell myself now.
Lisa, what about you?
Yeah, I think, I don't know how I follow April. I don't know if I have a great answer to this. I'll confess that I did get away for a vacation in February right after HEDNA. And maybe what I would have done differently is we were sailing the British Virgin Islands. Maybe I would have just stayed there and weathered the pandemic in the islands, work on my knot skills and my tan. aside from that, I think maybe make some more time for family. The year leading up to the pandemic, I traveled a lot, and while I enjoy that, I think it takes away a little bit from, the time that you get to spend with family. So I might have tried to do a little crash course face-to-face time with them before it got to be such a challenge.
Gabriel, what about you? Anything you would do differently?
Yeah, I think at the beginning I was a little bit, reckless on the, time to work, time to wake up, time to spend with kids, etc. So, it messed a little bit with my routine. So that's something that I, adjusted itself. So I'm doing a better job now because, we are in this environment for, I don't know how many months now, 10 months plus. So perhaps this is something that I would have started earlier, if I knew that we would be in this situation for that long, right? But I think at the beginning I was hopeful that it would take a few months, and and then we saw, what happened, and we're still in this, right? So I think that's something that I would have done differently, and I agree with April also. So something that I started a couple of months ago, maybe 2-3 months ago, was I usually go for a quick walk outside, and even if it's cold, and I think today is, I don't know, it's like -10 Celsius, like 0 Fahrenheit or something, I don't know. But I still force myself to go out, and that made a huge difference in my, I guess in my mental health, or I don't know. So perhaps I would have started that a little bit earlier too.
It's an important factor, and mental health is certainly something that has become topic and content of many human resources teams, as well as, a focus of us as leaders. You are leaders, but you also have leaders that lead you. Let's talk a little bit about, what competencies you appreciate most, right? Especially, in this crisis of, now sometimes we are distracted. We open up the news and we don't want to hear it anymore. We often get quickly distracted. But as you think about, leadership in general, and Gabriel, maybe let's start with you. What are some of the competencies that you appreciate the most in a leader, and that you potentially want to, showcase yourself?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I think for me, leadership is really about getting the team behind on a shared vision, right? And I think everything starts with the why, right? So why we do what we do, and I think we all here have, the great opportunity to work for such an amazing industry where, that is a great purpose, right? We connect people in person, right? And I'm a big believer that if everybody would just travel more, the world would be a better place. So I think we all have great purpose of working in this industry, and I think leadership is really to get your team behind a common vision and a common goal. Open up space for collaboration, right? So welcome ideas. I think we've seen that not only travel, but a lot of industries have a great pace of innovation, and it's important that we keep that pace by creating a space where everybody can collaborate and feel safe about sharing ideas and thoughts. And lastly is just about kind of in my opinion, that humble leadership approach where you're just there to once you align on the goals, on the vision, you're just there just to remove roadblocks, right? To see how can you help your team succeed, and that's the approach that we get from many of our leaders also on, hey, here are the goals. Everybody knows what you need to do to get there. So tell me how can I help, right? Instead of being there on the details of it, just giving the direction and say, hey, I'm here to help if you need me to help remove any roadblocks.
Lisa, what about you?
Well, I'm lucky enough to work for a company that has excellent leadership, and they're a constant inspiration to me in what they do and how they lead. So I think that I draw from the encouragement they provide us to share knowledge with each other. open the lines of communication with your team across borders, not to, get in your silos with your blinders on and think, okay, I sit in the Americas, think only Americas. We're a global company. We've got teams all around the world. I need to remember to include, my colleagues in Japan, China, Europe, wherever they're sitting. And if there's something they do really well, reach out to them, learn about it, share it with my team, and vice versa. If there's something that I know really well, expose that knowledge, share to everyone so that we can equally benefit from that information. And putting it out on places like SharePoint and things so that it's collaborative is key to that growth. I really enjoy that we're encouraged to be creative and think about what kind of disruptive ideas we can bring to the market. No idea is a bad idea. If you have one, throw it out there, explore it, bounce it off your colleagues at HEDNA. I've done that to April actually in the past. So it's nice that we're sitting on this panel together. Hey, call her up. Hey, April, I've got this idea. What do you think? Am I on the right track? Am I way off? It's encouraged and it's something that I really enjoy about what I get to do. So I think that's the leadership that I see and one that I'd like to emulate going forward.
April, what about you?
From my perspective, I think two things come to mind when I think about my leadership, and it's definitely been, shown in the last 10, 12 months. And the first thing I'll say is transparency. With all that's going on, there's a lot of unknowns going around. And quite honestly, we had questions. There were a lot of things we are hearing in the industry of layoffs and different things like that. And sometimes as a leader, you don't have all the answers. And I appreciate the transparency to be able to say, look, we don't have all the answers, but we're working through them. We're trying to figure it out. And we are trying to do what's best for everyone in the picture. And then the second piece, I think Gabriel touched on it a little bit ago, was servant leadership. As a leader, I look to my leaders to enable me and help me to do the things that I need to do. So as a leader myself and from other leaders, I look to them to be able to, just reach out, ask the question, what can I do to help you do your job better? Is there anything going on with you that whether it's personal or professional that may be a roadblock for you right now, that's an issue, and just showing that they actually care. And I think that's what, for me, in any leader or any relationship with any leader that I've had in the past, that's what really has cemented our relationship, that aspect of caring and taking care of me and the people on our team.
Look, as we look forward into 2021 and beyond, I want to sort of divide the topic in sort of three categories. And I mentioned that early in my introduction: distribution, technology, and payments. And they're all core to, if you will, what HEDNA does. And I would love to get your perspective on, what are some of the biggest changes that you're seeing and how that will sort of impact our world moving forward. I'd like to start with distribution because I think most of us are heavily involved into distribution. And I'm curious, maybe start with you, April. Looking back and looking forward at the same time, what are some of the changes that you're seeing to distribution that you think will stick around, that you will, they'll stick with us for some time?
There's actually been a lot going on from a distribution perspective. And one of the things that I see that, we are enabled here through HEDNA or through other organizations like Open Travel and HTNG is that we're coming together to solve problems. And from a technology perspective, from a distribution perspective, one of the examples I could probably give that kind of crosses over into that payment space is all of the changes that have come out of PSD2, the directive from the European Union, and how we've had to work together as an industry to try to figure out how do we deal with this? How do we handle this? How do we support this? And given all of the different pieces of technology that we have in our industry, whether it's the CRS, the PMS, and all the other interfaces, how do we all connect? And I hope, as we encounter these new challenges in our industry, that we continue that conversation and figuring out from a technology perspective, from a distribution perspective, how do we continue that conversation and keep that going? And ultimately, I think another thing that's going to come out of all of this is that what we think of as distribution is going to change. And maybe Lisa will get to this, when she kind of touches on things from her side, is that, historically, we've always kind of put distribution into this box of, oh, it's GDSs, it's OTAs, it's now alternative lodging or what have you, or these other things. But as we have to change and prepare for the climb back to where we've been in the past, I think we're going to have new opportunities to redefine what distribution looks like, especially from a hotelier perspective.
That sounds very interesting. I want to know what redefinition of distribution means. Lisa, do you want to pick that one up?
Wow, that's
clearly you're
question.
working on a secret project here. April and Lisa, what is this redefinition of distribution?
Oh man, I think it's a lot of things, Sebastian. Redefinition of who our traditional supply partners are. What are the accommodations looking like? I mean, there's been an evolution in who's feeding the market, as well as who's consuming, who's feeding the market. So I think that you're going to see some of these alternative accommodation supply partners and longer term stays and rentals feeding the supply side of the distribution model. And you're going to probably see an evolution and with just onward distribution capabilities of enablement through third-party integrators. Of course, you'll still have traditional distribution into OTAs and alternative distribution systems, as well as the GDS, meta search and things like that are going to still consume all of that ARI or availability rate and inventory data from a dynamic standpoint. But we're also seeing an evolution in the kind of static content messaging that's being processed and passed around from supply to demand side of the distribution model as well. With all of the social distancing and safety and cleanliness messaging, there was an immediate need to get that content out to the partners and the customer base and the consumers to see, yes, as a hotel brand, we recognize that this is a concern and we're addressing it, and here's how we're doing that. And not just doing that in one language either. So there's kind of a multi-prong approach to static content. Or semi-static content, as some like to call it, because it's always changing, right? Static implies that it stays, but it does evolve with situations like the pandemic. So incorporating that safety and cleanliness content, and then translating it into multiple languages so that it can be interpreted and understood by the end user. So I think that that's definitely something that we're going to see. And then, of course, the third-party integrators enabling onward distribution. So I've seen more of a reliance, I would think, of some of our partners and in the industry of a need to get your product out into the market and a reliance on technology partners to provide that service. So it's not just a one-to-one connection or a direct connect as such these days, but a variety of ways to get the messaging out there for the broader market to consume.
So less direct connects, more reliance on technology providers to enable quick time to market and integration. So
that seems to be what I've observed. Yeah.
So April is calling a new age of distribution, which is great. I love it. We'll trademark that. Lisa says more channels and reliance on technology provider, less appetite to invest in direct integrations. I can't wait how Gabriel is tying this whole thing up. Like, what's your distribution trend? Gabriel, drum roll.
He's going to reverse it all.
No, hard to beat this one. But look, I think it's going to require a even greater collaboration from everyone, from every player in the industry to work together to help the industry recover. And I think on Expedia Group side, when I speak to our product teams, I think high level, what we want to do is really to remove friction from our hotel partners and vacation rentals and properties in general. So, if it's easier for them to perform an action from their system or their platform instead of logging into our extranet, then we wanted to enable that, right? So to that end, we'll be making more use cases available through our APIs. That's something that we're gonna invest a lot in 2021 and ahead. And we also make it easier for connectivity partners to integrate with those capabilities and new APIs and services in a more self-service manner. And I think one of the things that really excites me is data, right? So our Expedia Group product teams, they have, as you can imagine, access to a lot of data points, and they are doubling down or maybe even tripling down on data and tools to really help our lodging partners optimize their business and make the most of our tools and in our marketplace.
All right. So I think April, again, new age distribution, Lisa, collaboration and new channels, and then Gabriel, data and new APIs. That's like, and optimizing use cases or automating use cases, removing friction.
That's correct. Yeah.
Getting creative.
Yeah, I think Gabriel said a good thing there of removing friction, and that's a collaborative effort from the booking channel down to the hotel who's delivering the service. If I'm a guest and I ask for some amenity or some add-on on Expedia, what's the guarantee that that message is going to get accurately delivered down to the hotel for them to be able to deliver on that experience when the guest arrives? And that's a industry-wide conversation to have. So even if it's between myself, Gabriel, and Lisa sitting here trying to figure out, if I'm IHG, how do I make sure that I'm getting that from Shiji, from Expedia?
Excellent. Very cool. Technology. What changes are you noticing in general? Anything that you get excited about? I mean, I read recently in the news that you can now in San Francisco use your face to board a plane, right? Biometric check-in is happening, and it's happening in Asia. I believe it's Hong Kong or Singapore, probably both. Singapore, San Francisco has a gate where you can basically use your face to board the plane. You still have to register at a course front desk agent. Let's think about hospitality and exciting technology in hospitality. Maybe April, turning it over to you since you're the, representative of a hotel company. What technology excites you?
Well, I think for me as a guest on an individual level, what I'm excited about is in hotel technology. That's for me the best experience. As someone who, I live in a home with all of these smart devices. When I go and I travel and I stay in a hotel, I like to have that. I'm a techie person. I like to see that in the experiences that I have in hotels. So whether I go into the room and I'm able to control the lights and things via an app, or set the devices in to wake me up at a certain time and tell me what the weather is, tell me the top news stories of the day, or as I'm walking through the hotel, have these other digital experiences where I can either engage through a mobile key or something like that. I think those are the things that most excite me, and to see how we can take that technology that is so very much so available in our society and bring that into travel.
So you don't bring your own device, you don't bring your own sort of Netflix account, and you want to use it there, or help me understand that a little bit.
Well, it could be that as well. Whether when I get into the hotel, I can log into those types of services and things like that. But one of the best experiences I had at a hotel, and I won't say the name of the hotel,
I hope it was an IHG hotel. I hope it was an IHG hotel.
Was that, there was a tablet there as soon as I walked in, and I could program the lights and things like that, or program my wake up time. I had all of these things that I could do, whether it was even requests for towels and things like that, from this tablet. And I just enjoyed that. That was a surprise and something that really delighted me about my experience on the property.
Lisa, as a frequent traveler, you're probably able to recognize that property, or at least have stayed in such examples, or a hotel that has such thing. But turning it over to you, any technology, and can be hospitality or travel related, any that excites you?
Questions to me? Yeah. Let's see. I mean, I think it's several of the points that April touched on. Getting back to traveling, I look forward to it, and I think that we'll be social distancing for a while. So anything that we can do to embrace contactless check-in, contactless payment, we're going to continue to see that as a trend. And as much as we can embrace it as a society, I think the better off we'll be with continuing our health. And keeping it in good standing. We all carry these smartphones around, and there's lots of algorithms and information and data about us out there. You look to some of this AI intelligence, artificial intelligence, and some of these smart devices. Your Google Home, your Amazon Echo, what have you. All that data is out there, and I think that I would like to see some of these larger technology companies take that data and personalize it and predict for Lisa, what does she want to see and when does she want to buy and where does she want to go, and deliver on that, right? Let's sell to our customers the way they want to buy. I'm putting a lot of information out there on a daily basis, minute to minute. So harness that and embrace it and use it, I think.
So your observation is that even though you're sharing the data, retailing or the people who are advertising or maybe even offering certain products are not yet leveraging that information.
I think they a lot of times are or maybe, but not as accurately or impactful as it potentially could be.
So they don't
I
know.
definitely get retargeting ads that are sometimes completely off.
So they don't know you well enough yet, is ultimately it.
I must be, I must be running some misdirection on the information I'm putting out there into the search bars.
Excellent. Gabriel, what excites you about technology advancement in travel and hospitality?
Yeah, I think it's in the same line as contactless check-in, right? I remember I had an experience about 2 years ago. We did a road trip in Europe, and I remember that we stayed maybe in line waiting for our car rental to speak to an agent for maybe about an hour, and it was me, my wife, and at the time my daughter was like 10 months old. So and we also had a small dog with us, so that was not a fun queued up to speak to an agent. So I think we've been talking about those seamless experience and contactless check-in for a while, but the pandemic really accelerated the need for that, right? And I think that will remove the the customer friction, right? So they can enjoy those services and make everything more efficient. So it's great to see that our brands are making a good strides on that on the car rental side, but also on the hotel front, working with our hotel partners and chains to bring that experience to life. So that's something that really excites me.
Fun. April, you already mentioned PSD2 or 3DS secure. There was also another horrible term that we used in the past. I forgot that one. But anyway, payment security. Let's shift a little bit to payments for a second. B2B payments are seeing, great innovations. Our Open Payment Alliance has published something with HTNG. What trends and changes are you seeing when it comes to payments, both from an end customer, but also, of course, as you exchange, value between trading partners?
I think PSD2 has been one of the bigger regulations that have the most impactful, I'll say, regulations that's come along in a while. And I think it's fostered or at least exposed an opportunity within our industry from a payments perspective. I think, quite honestly, from a technology perspective, we've been a little bit behind the ball in integrating some of these experiences. So like Gabriel mentioned and Lisa mentioned, these contactless experiences are becoming more prevalent. They're required often, now with social distancing and things like that. So from a payments perspective, I think we want to further figure out in the hotel industry, how do we embrace payments and the options, the contactless payment options, or whether it's mobile payment options like PayPal or even WeChat and other forms of payment in the industry. And also, I think what has traditionally been in our industry is that the payment is always with the booking, and sort of getting down to that place to really separate the responsibility there. I think that's a conversation that needs to be had and talked through and figured out in the travel space.
Thank you, April. What about you, Lisa?
Well, I agree with April, of course, and I'm thinking that there is a shift to these disruptive payment solutions: Apple Pay, WeChat Pay, Alipay. Using your Venmo account to pay for things, PayPal, what have you. And traditionally in the hospitality space, the payment has gone with the booking, but it doesn't have to do that. We can reimagine what the payment path looks like and redesign it. That's I think one of the reasons that HEDNA is around and exists is to challenge the standard and the status quo and look for ways to improve upon it. In my eyes, I think it's about technology-enabled services. We have to be flexible and create a seamless, intuitive guest experience, and whatever it takes for that to apply to the payment methods, then let's disrupt the status quo and make it seamless for the guest so that it's that much better for them and they'll repeat the process.
Gabriel already mentioned removing friction in another topic. What about payments, Gabriel? Also, we should remove more friction or less friction, remove friction?
Absolutely, yes. And on the customer experience side, I'll let them more to our brands to speak to it. I'm sure they're doing a great job providing great experience. On the more integration side, I think also comes down to collaboration, right? So let's make sure that whatever new technologies that are there are supported through all the different touch points to get to the final either PMS or downstream system that needs to take that payment. So this is something that we need to work very closely with partners to make sure that whatever we are putting in place works for everybody in a hopeful without friction way.
I think
go ahead.
Sorry about that, Sebastian. One other thing that I was thinking of in terms of payments is given everything that's happened in 2020, we're seeing that a lot more people are cost conscious about how they travel and how they plan their travel. And one of the cool things that I've seen, in the payment space has been the emergence of providers like Affirm and things like that are allowing guests to, pay for their travel, at a later date or other opportunities like that. And I think how we embrace those is also something that we should talk about as an industry as well. We want guests to be able to, in a perfect world, plan out their travel so we know what's coming, from a demand perspective, but allowing them from a payments perspective to have those options available to them to do that as well.
All right. Guys, I want to get ready for sort of the final meaty question, and you all future leaders of HEDNA, if you will. And, I'd like for you to start thinking about, what recommendations, what would you say to the current leaders of HEDNA, including myself and the board, right, if you will, of what we should do with HEDNA. And this is, what are you trying to get out of HEDNA that we can do more of? Any recommendation, anything that comes to mind? We're working right now diligently on the programming for the rest of the year. And I'd love to get, your thoughts and feedback on, the themes, the pillars, the things that HEDNA is focusing on. Is there anything that we should do differently? Is there anything that you think we should do more of? I'd love to get your perspective, since ultimately you will become the future leaders of HEDNA. Who wants to go first? I don't want to point.
I'll go first.
April, go.
I'll go first. This is some feedback that I think we've given in the past, but I think we haven't obviously been able to put to use yet. And one of those things is specifically targeting issues to solve and creating groups for us to talk about those specific things. And the example I'll give is we've had the content working group in the past, and I think their remit was very broad. And so they did publish several, working papers and things like that, which I think have been very useful. But I think when we talk about very specific topics that we're all sharing as an issue, we get a lot of participation. An example of that has been the attribute-based pricing and shopping group. I think when we first put that group out there, and we had such response to it because I think it's been a topic of conversation for a while. And I think now that we're starting to get together and define what things are, get a lot of participation and a lot of engagement there. So I think going forward, it's as we think about the working groups and things that we spin up, that we make sure that they're specifically trying to address or meet a need in the industry. And then we can get the right people around the table to have a conversation and figure out how do we define standards and processes around these things for the industry.
Love this, April. Thank you for sharing. Who wants to go next?
Yeah, I echo a lot of that, right, April? I think, as we see those, I think the need for greater collaboration within the entire industry, I think HEDNA is very well positioned to facilitate those discussions and help create those standards, right? We've talked a lot about content exchange and standards around that, etc. Now we're moving to automated check-in experiences or payments, etc. So I think HEDNA is very well positioned to bring the industry together and facilitate some of those discussions. And by the way, Sebastien, I think the current leaders are doing a very, very good job already. So it's just, I guess, a continuation of that.
Oh, it's your chance to say what we're doing poorly as well. It's like, but that's fine. No, but thank you, Gabriel. I really appreciate it. Lisa, anything we should do more or less of?
Good question. I think along the lines of the open dialogue and communication and creativity that I think is generally embraced, I'd like to see more of that. I'd like to see more action taken on some of these conversations that we have. I think, as everyone has said, we as an industry tend to recognize a lot of the same challenges. So let's identify them, talk about them. I think we do a great job about that. Maybe we can, set some goals and be thought leaders and then deliver on some of those thought leadership ideas and make some changes and make some movement, shake things up. I'd also like to see, for some of the new members that come into the HEDNA group, and this has been talked about, and it may exist, but I've just not heard the latest and greatest about it. We did talk at one point about a mentorship program. I think it can be a little daunting for some of the new additions to our club to come in because we've all been here for many years and know each other very well and have great relationships. So I think it would be wise for us to, bring some of those new members into the fold, take them in under our wing and welcome them to the group and show them around. That did exist a little bit at the last HEDNA I was in LA, but I think we could improve upon it. So I may be volunteering myself for something here, and I'm happy to help.
You certainly are. Lisa, no, guys, thank you very much for sharing your thoughts and insights.